Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast.
And we get the back view of him. And I mean, it's just a mega.
52 yards is a long shot. Magnum PI is what we named him. No idea.
Just a magnum.
Yeah, just a magnum.
Come on, Cam, last year we said probably 150, mid 150.
Yeah.
Same doe from the morning come out with that 9-pointer.
Here steps out this 90-inch 8-point. You're like,
I'm like, okay, well, there's still a buck back there grunting.
Yeah.
And then out steps like another 90-inch 8-pointer. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm like, deer, right there.
Yeah, like
and he's
30
already
yards.
30 yards.
Yeah.
He was literally 5 yards from the base of the tree. Could have been, had a buck down at 1:40 in the afternoon, back there deep on public. 3 does come out pretty early. It was like 245, 24 yard shot, sent to combat veteran, and I tell you what, man, dude, it just smoked. We always get so jacked up when the other person kills. It's just almost like we got it done.
Yeah. And when you killed that doe, I was like, hell yeah, man.
And we come down here to Missouri.
I asked Comey one more time. I'm like, is it a good buck? And he goes, yeah, real good, solid buck. I'm like, all right, boom. And the deer just drops. Sure. Super special meat.
Whitetail Legacy Podcast, bringing you back to the hunt and leaving a legacy. Baller Rut.
Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast. Back to our regular scheduled Wednesday earhole feeling beautiful voices.
I don't know if anything's been regular here the last couple of weeks. Holy shit.
Not even pooping regular. I got to get back on the system.
I'm all jacked up, bro.
All jacked up. Hell of a funk. Well, we got Clint McCoy on talking about how to get out of a funk in the rut when you got the heat going on hardcore like we experienced. He put out some Facebook posts that I really was intrigued on, and we used some of those tactics, and we've seen some success with it. Let's get into the people that make this possible. We're going to get right into the show. You got VIP.
Yeah, I just want to talk about, don't forget that the VIP family of broadheads advertises scalpel sharp blades. I know almost every time I'm messing with these blades, trying to reseed them or whatever, if I'm not using the lawsuit eliminators, them blades just have a different edge to them, and it's that scalpel sharp that they always talk about, really helping you get that penetration into your animal there.
You got the VIP shout-out.
Yeah, this week's shout-out is going to be a combat veteran. This week's combat veteran shout-outs is Robert McGrath. He's a World War II Marine veteran. He's going to be 98 years old next month. He lives in Missouri, and he has shot a stud of a 9-pointer this year. Robert's family says that they find it incredible that he continues to go out and enjoy one of his lifelong passions, no matter what age you are. You can still get out there and enjoy the outdoors, and Robert has the bragging rights for the year in the family. So, Robert, we appreciate everything that you've done, man. World War II Marine veteran, that is incredible, and you're still getting out there and getting it done. We appreciate everything. That blows my mind when I see this story. So, hats off to you, man.
All right, you got Exodus trail cameras.
Yeah, I hear this past couple weeks, Exodus and Last Breath TV teamed up and they did a podcast. I know in that podcast they talked about the render transmission time as far as being real time. The hot topic here coming up lately is the Boone and Crockett cellular trail camera debate. If you're running trail cams and how real time that is, the Exodus render is capable of producing 20-second transmission time. So if you get a deer in front of your camera, within 20 seconds, that is capable to be transmitted to your phone. So
Jeez.
That is incredible real-time data that the Exodus render can provide you.
That's insane, yeah. All right, I got Hunt Reminder. This is a company that reached out to us and wanted to run some ad for you guys. I'm going to break it down a little bit for you. We talked about it a couple times. I'm actually using this. Just got the notification for first season turkey is expiring in Illinois for all the local guys. First season's almost over. Are you on it?
I got to get on.
See, I'm telling you, that's why I got the message. I'm like, I ain't on that shit.
Over here.
So, first season lottery is in the books right now. It's about to close. So, Anyways, they have over 470 different application periods across the U.S. and Canada on their website, ranging from big game to small game to migratory birds. And the application periods includes preferred points, public land drawings, youth hunts, anything that you would need information about or what you would have to hunt this area. It's on the website. You can find that at huntreminder.com. It's $14.99, and they've came together, and it's an annual subscription, so you get it for the year, one-time fee. It comes out to about $1.25 a month, which is pretty cheap once you think about it. And I was thinking about our tags. You know, I mean, it's pretty reasonable to remember to get a turkey tag. And they've come up with a code. It's Legacy, all caps. That's LEGACY. And that's $5 off for your first year, so you get it for $10, $9.99. So be able to save you guys $5 with the code Legacy. So then it'd be like 75 cents. I can't do the math right now.
I was there. We're trying to do math.
Cheap as hell for a month at $9.99. So if you guys want to try it out, we're enjoying the product and appreciate the ad read. Do you have Last Breath TV?
Yeah, I just kind of tied them in there with Exodus. These guys are always putting out content, weekly, fresh content. They're wrapping up their season from last year. And let me tell you guys, next year is going to be a hell of a lot better with the way that they're stacking them up this year. So be sure to subscribe to their YouTube channel and get ready for that.
Yep. All right, let's get in the show. All right, guys, we got a good friend on. We got Clint McCoy tonight. I thought you were going to get soaked out there glassing for deer, but it looks like you missed it a little bit.
No, man, I'm in the dirty South down here. We're high and dry right now.
Yeah, man. Well,
that radar's definitely coming though.
I know we've been chit chatting here, but I haven't got the chance just to say congratulations on an absolute hell of a season, dude. I know that you worked your butt off just between watching your Facebook posts and your messages and what you got going on, and we appreciate the messages that you sent to us while we were out there trying to get it done too. Those little, man, it's gonna happen, keep going. They don't mean like much, but then you're like, shit, Clint's going, I gotta go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I
That's
appreciate
right, man. That's right. That's always a good thing. Like there were some days there when it was hot, son, that it was like, I just felt like I was kind of going through the motions, and I was like, you know what? I think everybody's feeling that. Like diehard guys, I'm sure they're all feeling like this when it's this hot, and like a little bit of positivity spread around can be a good thing, man. And
Oh yeah,
stuff like that.
We were messaging everybody, and I would be like, "What'd you see?" I wouldn't tell what I seen first, and they'd be like, "We didn't see anything." I'm like, "Okay, thank God I'm not the only guy out here hunting that didn't see a deer in the rut." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're doing these podcasts. We're like, "Yep, seen 2 deer today. It was pretty solid."
Oh yeah, no, I did an all-dayer after about, oh gosh, it was like probably the 5th or 6th in a row all-dayer that I'd done, and I thought I was going to a gangbuster spot, and I sat there from dark to dark, didn't see the first freaking deer, and I went home and I was like, this was the worst day ever. That sucked.
Yeah, when you said we had one of those days where we seen a shooter like the first 3 minutes of shooting light and then didn't see a deer the whole rest of the day. We were like, oh my gosh.
And then there are days where you can just like not even worry about strategizing and just go to some rando pre-hung that you've got.
Those are the best.
And you see like 20.
Yeah, those are the best. We were talking about it, and I had a lease a while back where I killed freeze, and there was really good deer on, really good bucks, but there was also just deer numbers. And that's something that me and homie just miss having. Just you go out, you see 5 or 6 does and a couple small bucks. You didn't see a shooter, but you seen some deer movement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Deer were doing deer stuff. Like,
yeah.
I told homie, I said, all the deer are dead. There is nothing out here. The cams are dead. There's nothing moving. We sat all day not to see a deer. You know what I mean? Like, how's this even possible? And in your mind, you're like, I'm just waiting on that midday cruiser, the random buck, 78 degrees, but I'm out here.
But I've been pulling cameras that have been in the timber now for, several weeks. And I did some of that today, and I was just going through some of those hot day photos, and there were some deer up moving around in that heat. There were. Now it wasn't the classic like get all day pictures from dark to dark and then some, but it was still going on. Just the rut was still cranking when it was hot like that. It was just very subdued and very short bursts, I felt like.
Yeah, we know a lot of people that killed still, and killed a rattling, killed coming, a buck coming to a decoy, killed a cruiser in the morning, Zach Page had 3 bucks chasing a doe when it was like 70, and we were sitting there like, man, we just want to see a spike buck. I kept saying, where's the spike buck? We got this one spike buck we've seen about 6 times a day. We don't see any deer. I'm like, I'll take the spike buck at this point. Where's he at?
Send the token spike buck.
Yeah, let me catch a glimpse. But yeah, it was rough out there. So that's why we had you on. We want to talk about beating the heat, and you were able to do that and be successful. And then you also put out some posts that really intrigued me, and we kind of went off and started using some of that. Homie was actually the one that brought it up. He'd walked in, and, man, he's just like, man, it's just so much nicer down here. You know what I mean? And that was like when the light bulb went off, like, okay, let's just try to keep going down there, because if we think it's nice, the deer are gonna think it's nice. So, you've been on once before, but kind of just give a brief introduction, and then we'll break down a couple of the tactics that you had in your post, and then I'm sure you got a couple more in that whitetail brain knowledge you got right there.
Yeah, well, again, my name's Clint McCoy. I'm a veterinarian by trade and a deer hunter because I have to, not the other way around. I think this. I was just thinking back, the start of the year. This is my 25th. This is my 25th year in the woods. I didn't get started until I was in the later teenage years, but I grew up in southeastern Illinois on a family dairy farm and been down here ever since, and got good ag down here. And the area of the country I live in doesn't have a whole lot of contour to it, so it's broken. Typical Illinois broken farm country, broken timbered farm country, I should say. And it, our largest woodlot sizes are about, 80, 90 yards or 90 acres at the most. Most of them are more like 35 or 40, but that's kind of my background. I've been fortunate enough to grow up in a pretty decent whitetail area.
Yeah, that's one thing I was saying. I'm blessed to live where I live, but we're kind of the same thing. Like, I've been scouring the maps looking for a lease, and I want to spend the money and get a solid lease, or something like an 80-acre block of timber where me and homie can move, something we've never had. Finding an 80-acre block around where I live is just hard to do. It's like little spindly draws and chunks, here and there. And there's just like areas where there's big blocks of timber. And it doesn't seem like rocket science to me, but it is to a lot of people. People are like, well, how do you know? Like, I always say there's certain areas where I know where there's giant deer, and it's where those big blocks of timber are. If you look at the map, I can make a circle of like, okay, there's giants here, there's okay hunting here, there's giants here, and it's where those giant blocks of timber are. You know what I mean? Where you can find big block where you got higher deer numbers, better chance of a giant being in there. And that's what I've been going off of. But to find an 80 is tough. You know what I mean?
And it's getting to be that way everywhere, I think. I don't own, more on background for me. I don't own a piece of ground, and I don't do any public hunting, really. It's friends and family and knock and talks and that sort of thing. So you definitely got to, this day and age, it's difficult anymore. It's not like it used to be when I was a little bitty kid where, pretty much anybody lets you go, but it is what it is, and we'll just have to adapt to it.
Yeah, that's like, I told him, I said, if I got to call 100 people or talk to 100 people, we just got burnt on public, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
we're gonna hunt it. We're not giving up on it. We killed on it, but man, it's just the deer aren't easier to kill, but the amount of work that you have to put in compared to the piece that we're hunting is different. You know what I mean? You just
I bet.
you get to figure out what the deer are doing, and then when the deer do deer stuff, there isn't some other guy that's 150 yards away ruining what they normally do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're like, man, that's just they're not going to do that because that guy's there, and then your whole entire game plan's flipped. But if the listeners don't know, here in the Midwest, we suffered is what I'm going to say.
Yeah,
we suffered from the worst rut that I have ever had that I can remember. This has got to be the worst for we encountered a giant deer and we killed a buck. So it's not like it was devastatingly bad, but it was bad. Like it was bad for the amount of time. I told her we were talking. I don't think we've ever hunted that many hours consistently in a tree. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and just had poor hunts.
Yeah. So
where we should have had better hunts.
Yeah, where the cameras are, the deer are there.
Yeah.
And they don't just vanish, you know what I mean? But they're just not moving at all. And we had the highest I think was 78. We had a day here at 78.
78, 75, 76.
And then we had the lows that one day. The low at one day was 52.
56
I was
something.
like, Jesus, 50. We're going out in the morning. I said, it was the evening.
Yeah.
It was the evening, and I was like, this is what the morning's going to feel like at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we had the same, and it, to kind of set the stage weather-wise for what's happened here in the Midwest. We had a really good cold front right around the 30th to the 31st of October there, and boy, bucks were getting whacked and stacked on that cold front.
Yeah.
People were bodies were dropping all over the place.
Yeah, we almost killed the 30th. So it was good, man. It was.
Yeah, it was good, and I just missed my opportunity on one on Halloween. But I got some good intel on him, which later helped me shoot him. But right after Halloween comes through, and I think it was around the 4th or the 5th or so, we had like 5 days straight of 70 plus highs, and one low for me down here was like 63 one night. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, that's terrible.
It was awful. So, when it's this warm, it doesn't stop cyclicity, right? Like the only thing that triggers does to cycle is day length, and that day length is the same all the time. Every year, the day length drop is always the same. Mother Nature does that repeatably every year, same day, same time. And you could even look, as for an example, look at your moon or your sundown sunset times. If you just look at those, you'll see that those numbers decreasing during these months, and it always happens the same way. That is the trigger for cyclicity. That's the trigger for the rut. However, if you're at your fattest body weight, of the season, and you've got your winter fur on, how's about you go run around out there in that 78-degree shit we had and tell me how you feel?
Yeah, I was out in a shorts and t-shirt checking cams.
Yeah.
I was like, we had to go deep to get these cams. I'm like, I got a pair of shorts. I'm switching it.
Yeah.
And going, you know what I mean?
That day that it was 78 degrees, I literally hunted in Crocs.
Yeah, I see your Crocs out
there.
Yeah. Crocs and a t-shirt from sun up to sundown.
Ridiculous.
Didn't see a single damn deer.
Not the Lucky Crocs, huh?
Nope, not
Damn
the
it.
Lucky Crocs.
No.
I got a pair of Lucky socks that are
fire.
I would not sell those for a lot of money. I'll tell you that right now. Those things are real solid.
But it was, it was hot, but there were some flashes of the rut is still going on. When it was all, every good hunt that I had during that heat wave was first hour of the day was 10 times better than the last hour. The last hour was a C-, and the first hour of the day was a B+, you know.
Yeah.
I was seeing, and I did see a couple of target bucks when it was that hot, but it was hard to do.
Yeah, we killed and we seen, you know, the biggest deer that we were after when it was hot. It was the morning. The first hour and a half is when we seen all the movement
deer,
for
yeah.
the day.
Yep.
And then the evening we might see a couple does filter out or something, you know what I mean? But
most likely nothing.
Yeah, most likely nothing. You know what I mean? And it went on for that, like that for, we had that one hunt where we seen the buck. That's back when it switched to cold, though. When we had the buck chase a doe across
Yeah, it was
the
going
field.
to cold.
Yeah, it was going to cold. So, yeah, during that heat, we had 2 encounter with shooter deer.
Mm-hmm.
We killed one of them.
Yep.
You know, the other one was the biggest one we were after. So, I mean,
that's a win.
That's
dude.
a win. You
Yeah.
killed one, and then the biggest one you're after, you encounter, and
I was saying we're saying just overall the best part of the day, just like you said, Clint, was the first hour.
Yep.
But literally for us, it was from shooting time to the first half hour is
yeah,
the
that's
prime.
when we seen the bucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We would see deer movement. We'd see does filtering back and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
we never, during that heat, we never seen a buck on a doe.
No.
We seen bucks
See,
by
no,
themselves cruising.
Yeah. Now, see, I did. I had this buck. He's this nasty, like, ratty old bully buck. He's mean as a snake. We call Unabomb. And I had him at 7 yards on the tail of a doe one of those warm mornings, and he just got away from. I'm glad he did, but he just got away from me, and I really debated on thumping him, but it all happened so fast, and so I was mad that he kind of got away from me, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna target you for the next 3 or 4 days in here and dump your ass. Well, that's when it got hot, and I saw him 2 more times on that really warm day. He was still in there with a doe, and I'd run the saddle in there on him, and where I was hunting him was, kind of a lower bottom that gets shade almost all day long, and the wind flows through there on a south really nice, so it's almost like air conditioning. And I saw him with a doe down in there, and I almost got a crack at him that evening, but he just wasn't meant to be for him. But when it's hot like that, boy, you really, like, I feel like you really need to think about body thermoregulation, we call it in veterinary medicine, right? Again, those animals are at their fattest they're ever going to be for their winter right about then, and they've got that winter fur on, that thick, dense, insulative gray coat, you know? And it'd be like running a marathon in 90-degree heat with, with your coat on. Like, it would roast you. And so you're obviously, when it's weather like that, you need some thermal cover, but in the opposite direction of what we think about thermal cover in the wintertime. Like, they don't want to be hot. They don't want to be uncomfortable. Where does that occur in the timber on a hot day? Deep down low, somewhere where they get shade all day, every day, shade lines on the edges of fields, somewhere that gets a nice breeze and a flow through, maybe a top that's got some shade. Just areas like that. And if there's a bit of a water source in those areas as well, it's not a bad thing to have in your hip pocket. But like, we use the term thermal cover, and I think cover is a bit of a quote misnomer. Like, I don't necessarily think of it as thermal cover, just thinking of it as thermal structure. They might be down in a bottom that's completely wide open and just bedded down. So there's no quote cover around them, but that thermal structure, those big trees on that hillside above them, giving them shade, that's something to think about. So I feel like I see that stuff in the summer too, with bucks bedded in shady fence rows that the wind blows through. Thermal cover works for them in the summer to keep cool. They don't want to be miserable, any more miserable than we do.
Yeah, that's something that you had posted about, playing that shade line that I thought would be interesting, and that's what we end up doing. We had walked through an area going to hunt, and when we had got to the lowest part where in the morning, when we had to walk across this big pasture, and it was hot. You know what I mean? It was
It
like,
was
man, it was
sticky.
It was warm. You know what I mean? And we
Yeah.
got everything on our backs, and we're taking breaks every now and then, just trying not to completely get soaking wet. And we got to that bottom. We took a break, and I'm like, man, it's like kind of chilly down there because all you're wearing is a long sleeve T-shirt. You know what I mean? You're wearing a long sleeve T-shirt and then that when homie's like, yeah, it's kind of cold down here, and I'm like, yeah. Then it kind of clicked. So we put some hunts down there in the bottom, and that's when we had the buck encounters. Both buck encounters were in that bottom, close to water, the lowest point on the property, where that south wind would blow through really good.
Yep.
Yes.
Where nothing stopped that south wind. So we may have even had a huge notice to where, like, when you're up in the stand, you don't really know how hot it is because you're up high
Right.
in the daytime, and you get down on the ground, there's just no wind. You're like, man, it is hot as hell down here. So we took the notice to that to, like, okay,
Now get up.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So if there's just a difference in 20 feet, you know what I mean? What's the difference in the morning in 200 feet? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we played that in our cards after reading your message about, hey, think about thermal, think about, the shade line. And then we kind of did that on the last hunt where we had an option to set up on this ridge. We could have set up on the sun side or kind of went around to where the shade had most of it for the day, and we set up right on where the sun and the shade line met. So we could see that shaded line because we were thinking, hey, maybe these bucks are going to work that shaded line. But thinking back, every deer that we did see when it was hot like that, they were just like tongue out, like hot.
Yeah, you could tell
down.
they were feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same. They were, and it's super stressful on the body. Like when it comes to, back to the veterinary philosophy thing. Like, tell me how you feel after you've been on your feet for 5 days in a row when it's 78 degrees, and you've got all your extra clothes on, and you've literally run up and down hills and miles all day, every day, chasing does. Like, tell me how you'd feel. You would feel awful.
Yeah.
Like you would be
we felt
in
awful
bad
out there
shape.
just doing what we were doing, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I was just thinking the whole time, I'm like, man, these deer is feeling the same way I am right now. Just absolutely like, F this heat, man.
I agree. Like, it was just, it was so sluggish. The time I saw Unibomb there in the late afternoon when it was that hot, he was tending a doe, but it was real tentative. Like, you could almost tell they were like, you know what? We've ran the piss out of each other the last 12 hours. Let's just call a semi-truce, and I'll let you bump me around in this bush honeysuckle a little bit, but I want to stay my ass in here where it's cool.
Yeah.
And so I would see him do that a little bit, stop, go back and lay down, and then an hour or so later, another little buck would come in and investigate, and he'd run him off, But it was all that activity was happening in somewhere that was much cooler than, field edges that are catching full sun and tops that are facing south, or even slopes that are facing south that are lit up like a Christmas tree. So what I started thinking about is just flipping your winter hunting strategy. We're all taught, in the old school ways of the whitetail, like, yep, wintertime, they're on the south facing slope, it catches the most sun, and get somewhere down low so the wind isn't really biting them down low in that thermal protective structure. You just flip it around, find some shade, and get somewhere where there's plenty of wind, and I think that really helped.
Yeah, I think that really helped for us too, and I think that's not something that a lot of people would have thought about, you know what I mean? Because in your mind, like me going back to that piece that I was talking about, that lease I had where I killed, I killed I killed 3 solid bucks with a bow back to back to back, and then I killed freeze.
4.
I killed 4 with a bow and then freeze.
Yeah.
Anyways, the deer did deer stuff. Like, they did the same thing, you know what I mean? So with the heat, you'd be like, man, I set on this CRP field and they cruise this transition line. I'm just going to set here. And we knew people that were doing that and they weren't seeing deer. But like you, in my mind, I was like, man, if I was just trying to go back to that property, you know how it had that big ravine that split with the creek in it? I bet you they were just running that ravine up.
Down low,
you know what I mean? And just running that edge, checking it out. And that's how we would have hunted, you know what I mean? So I wanted to have you on because I feel like a lot of people wouldn't have thought like you did, which was smart. And then when I seen your post, we automatically kind of switched to that. And then we even went back and tested the waters again in like an overgrown pasture setting where there was no shade, no deer, no deer. Where it is like consistently, that's where we see the biggest deer year after year is right there. We're seeing no deer. You know what I mean?
None.
So
None.
you were on to something.
I don't know. It's just thinking outside the box, kid. And there may not be, you know, who knows? There may not be any scientific provability to all that. You know, deer, and I'll give you an example that might shoot a hole in my theory. One of those real hot days, I was getting out of the truck at straight up noon and heading deep into this doe bedding area, and it's a flat piece that kind of sticks out to the south, and it gets some sun on the edges, but when you get deeper in there, it's mostly hedge and it's nice and shady. I'm not kidding you, right on the very southwest corner in full sunshine, I kicked up a booner and a doe, and they took off hailing for higher ground. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, they had to be hotter than hell right there. And I didn't even think to avoid that corner because I was like, well, they're not going to be there. They're going to be hotter than fire. Well, I was wrong. And so
we were wrong 90. Yeah, we were wrong 90% of the time.
Oh, I know. I think as whitetail strategists, I think we are wrong probably 90% of the time. But it's the 10% that you're right. It's what makes you feel like a He-Man.
Yeah. I was gonna say, just back at the beginning of the show when you were talking about that random set, you just go in there and you have no expectations of it. But when you do go in there and you see 10 deer, you're like, yeah, I hung that set.
Yeah,
you know, it's solid.
It's pretty
Yeah,
good
right.
set. Yeah.
Like that's a shot in the arm. If you've been getting your tail kicked and you just go have a goof off hunt, that's a good thing. It's like good for my morale. You know, like you can only take so much sun up, sundown work or hanging hunts before you go, man, I need to change it up a little bit. I've been hunting a little bit on the ground in natural cover lately, and that's been a lot of fun. And I'm always trying to learn and change. And the older I get, the more I enjoy putting those, you know, trying to hunt as low as possible or even on the ground. And I'm going to, one of my goals for the next year is trying to smoke one, you know, in natural cover. I've always kind of wanted to do that, you know, and I'm starting to develop enough sense about how to do it, and I think I could probably get it done, but it'll take forever.
Our buddies Matt and Jesse do it every year.
Yeah.
They kill one on the ground with a bow. They both
Natural
killed on the
cover.
ground with a bow. Natural cover, no blind.
Man, I love that. It's like how the Indians used to do it.
Yeah, and they got like a spot that's called the hole, where I think it's like maybe their waist up to their waist, and they stand in that, and that kind of gives them some cover. But Matt killed one standing by some logs on film, had the tree arm like ratchet strapped to a log, and he had to like stand up on a log to get a shot at the deer. I'm like, how in the hell? Got it done. Dude's a legend, you know what I mean? That's like, I think that's like his 5th or 6th deer on the ground.
It's
like,
a lot. It's an
man,
ass
but like
load.
4th with a bow, or 3 or 4 with a bow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
I
he's
on
took
film.
I took that gun buck I shot. I humped a lone wolf in there super early, and I hung it about 6 feet in a fairly large oak that was so dang big I had to I had to tie a strap to a strap
Oh,
to
yeah.
get it around there. But it was like just over the top of a treetop.
Yeah, I seen that. I seen the picture, yeah.
And like he come rolling up in there to like 30 steps, and when I when I grunted at him to stop him, or gave him the old mat trick, he looked the other way, and I was like, "Well, that's not going to be good for you."
Someone was questioning you on Facebook about that set too. I didn't know that's the one you killed out of. That's even better.
Oh, yeah.
Someone was like, "I don't know if I would do that or not." That's never.
Oh, dude.
Then
The
you killed.
video. So here, I was self-filming this, right? And I have this little gimmick run and gun rig. It's one of those old, Realtree 3 section easy hangers, right?
Oh yeah,
And
I got a 2-section one. Yeah.
yeah,
Real
so
solid.
I get a three-sided one, and I put one of those little muddy mount screw-on camera mounts they used to make on the end of it, and I just film off of that. And it gets a little bounce, and it's kind of guerrilla warfare, but it's like the video of this hunt, it was like I blasted him with that 12 at, not point blank, but close. And he runs right in front of the tree and drops 15 steps on film. And I was like, man, I got to do this more often.
Yeah.
Dude, that is a lightweight as
Yeah.
hell setup right there. Jeez.
I mean, it's a little bouncy, and it's not like smooth pan and tilt, push and pull and all that crap. But let me tell you, for guerrilla war down in the trenches, 6 feet up off the ground,
Yeah.
it was awesome.
It gets the job done. That's all that
Yeah,
matters.
I commented on your picture. I was like, looks like a kill tree to me.
Yeah.
Sure as shit is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We the tree I killed out of, we were like 12 foot off the ground, 6 inches around, leaning straight forward.
Leaning forward like at least 60 degrees. I mean,
those
it's
are
terrible.
Absolutely terrible setup.
Oh, those are so bad.
Homie's like, this is where we need to be. I'm like, this tree is trash.
if I've got these disc problems in my lower back, and if I'm in a tree that's leaning forward like that, I can't walk for 2 days.
No, it was bad. I only sat in it for like 45 minutes before I killed my buck. I'm like, I'm done with this tree already.
The best position to be in this tree is to run 100 yards as fast as you can and then bend over on your hands and knees to be breathing heavy. That is the best position to sit in that tree. Just bent over all day.
Yeah. I was during the dark when it was dark. I had my elbows on my knees, like hold my chin up the whole time, waiting for sunlight to come up. Oh yeah.
We talked a little bit about that heat, and back to that. Like if I look at the couple bucks that I've shot, and I was just dumping all the footage over on the hard drive the other day, and there were 2 dates that I didn't, that there was a gap in my footage, and there were 2 dates that I didn't film anything, and it was one of those days where it was the last day of that hot spell, and it was like 25, 30 mile an hour winds. And I went in and kicked up that 8-pointer out of his bed on purpose, hung on him, and 2 days later, in that cold front, killed him. The next day that we had that was kind of crappy was a day that was so windy and just it was so bad gusty wise that, like, if you shot him an arrow at him south, it would have headed north. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
One of those days. So I just put work in on that day and did some scouting where I finally killed that gun buck, and that's what those days off led me to, getting in the right spot that I just needed to be. It's not all, I'm certainly by no means like tooting a horn or anything, because you got to get lucky every one of those suckers you kill, man.
Oh, yeah.
Every single time. But those work days when the weather was just so crappy for deer hunting, it really helped shape my season. It really, really did.
That's something we struggle with. We talked about going in on the ground and hunting and doing a hunt and scout kind of deal.
Yes.
And I wish we would have done it. You would know so much more. You know what I mean?
But this year we've done better than we have in the past
Yeah.
as far as taking a night off of hunting and scouting or doing some work to, whatever. This year we have done more of that and traded off a hunt.
But during the rutcation, man, in your mind, you're like, I just got to be in a tree. I
Yeah.
just got to be in a tree.
And I have to force myself to just take the bow out of the truck and put it in the house and go do the work that I know I need to. And I told myself last year, I killed a great buck last year, but I didn't feel that second tag, and I got kind of complacent after I killed that first one. And I didn't make enough moves when I needed to make them. I was always kind of like, I'll get to it in another day or two or whatever. And, what I told myself this year was like, if I know I need to make a move, when the first opportunity that I can make that move, I'm going to do it. If it's right now, I'm going to go do it. If it's 10 o'clock at night, do it. If you need to be there, get there and don't wait. You cannot stand on ceremony with these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what homie was saying is we were a step ahead of him one time, and that's what you're just trying to literally get inches ahead of these deer during the rut. What do you think they're going to do tomorrow? Where do you think they're going to go tomorrow? And you're not thinking about, well, he was here. Where he was during the rut means kind of nothing, to some extent.
Not true.
So
I don't subscribe to that. I really don't subscribe to that. And you're right. In theory, and there are parts to that is true. But yeah, during the rut, is he most likely to be up on his feet and a mile and a quarter away chasing a doe? Yes, but I think some of these. Well, I don't think I've seen it. I just saw it and killed him from it. Some of these bucks will return to their home body, like this is my home bed, and rest for a day or two. Like I caught this buck in his bed on the 10th or 11th of November, kicked him out of his bed, hung the stand, and 2 days later on a cold front, I watched him come into his bed, lay down for 2 hours. I couldn't see him in his bed, but I knew he was in there. And about 4:15, he come up out of his bed, come to the ridge, and I killed him. So I think there are exceptions to that haphazard rut rule. Like some bucks just come back home. Like just think about it. Like if you're on vacation and, you're like, you need to sleep in your own bed when you get home. It feels really, really good. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I could see where me thinking that way, I had probably messed up on opportunities now that you say that, because there is deer that we know are more homebody deer.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if that was a deer that you had in like velvet or in past years that this deer's been around, or all year, or is this deer just your fall range?
Total. Yeah, that 8-pointer I shot with a bow there was total homebody. I've got a few photos of him in this summer and last summer, and he certainly. I mean that where I was at, he hardly ever left that area. He was fairly regular in there, and when when you get in their photos in the summer in the same general areas that you're getting them in October and then the rut.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's a homebody. Go kill him.
Yeah, I like the short time 10.
Yeah,
I could see figure if we knew where he was bedded.
Right.
He probably went back to that bed a lot. You know what I mean? Because he never really left that area. He was in that.
No, yeah, he was
zone. You know what I mean? But like Magnum,
I'm gonna say Magnum's definitely there in the fall, and that's it.
Yeah, he's there from like the 20th of October, and then
we ran the cams same last year, same this year, same. You know what I mean?
Know
even
he comes
more.
In there
and he's just there, and then all of a sudden he's all over the place.
Yeah, then he's
late October he's all over the place. Before then, ghost.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we know that, but like I could see, if we had a good idea where we had the short time 10 bedding, which that back ridge that we were going to hunt, I think he's bedding in that ravine in between the ag and the water. Going in there could have been an option to hunt, but we made a lot of mistakes during the rutcation. We learned though, you know what I mean? So,
well,
I like that you challenged me on that, because it makes me think that, that probably is true. I could see if you had a homebody buck that was there, and you knew where he was bedded, he's going to come back to that spot eventually, because he's going to be like, all right, I'm going to take a break. I know this is a safe place. Or maybe he's cruising for does. It's getting close to daylight.
Yeah,
like,
so I watched him that evening. So when it was really hot, I thought, you know what? I think he beds in that bottom. I'm going to roll in there with a stand on my back and try and, if he's there, I'm going to toss him out of his bed, eyeball it, and see if I can't hang on him. And sure enough, I no more than peeked over that ridge, and he silhouetted me, and he was bedded in one of those little little blips that stick out into a creek bed. It's almost like a little peninsula, real tiny little spot. And he jumped out of there and put that creek in between me and him, lickety split, and he was gone. So I went down there right around his bed. I didn't lay in it or anything, but like I got down there right by it just to see what he could see, and really took my time there. I had my stand with me and everything, and I took probably an hour and a half to size it up. And when I hung it in the tree, I could see I was over on a ridge overlooking the bottom, and I could see his entry route in and out of his bed. And I could also see his route up the ridge if he was going to come that way. And I did have some history him using that ridge right around the 3rd of November. I saw him cut over the top of it. So that was where I made my play. And a couple of days later, that cold front hit. When he was actually coming into his bed, in the middle of the afternoon, and he left a doe to come in there and lay down. Like, you could just tell he was so tired, plodding along real slow. But he didn't stay long before he was back up on his feet and running again.
Took a break and said, all right, shit, I need to get back out in the game. That makes me think about, you find those buck beds like you're talking about, and we did this on the first piece of public. We didn't know a lot about it. It was that day where it was cold, and then it was like 40, 50-mile-an-hour winds. I don't know if you had that.
Oh, yeah.
What was it?
Halloween, or the day after Halloween.
The day after Halloween. So it was a good morning. It was high winds in the morning, and then midday it was just insane
ridiculous,
winds.
Yeah.
And we took that time to get down and scout, and we ran into the most phenomenal buck sign we've ever seen in our life.
Yeah.
Like, it was unbelievable. And we were walking. We both were like, man, that looks exactly like a spot where a buck would bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We walk 15 more yards, buck pops up. We're like, shit. In your mind, you're like, I knew that was it, but you just don't want to say, okay, there's a buck bedded there. You know what I mean? You're just like,
You're like,
looks
well,
like
I busted him already.
Yeah, it looks like it, but I don't know 100% about it. But I'm like, man, that's a perfect spot.
Yeah.
And
then
the more of those you find, especially those ones that you bump one out, the better off, the better you get at locating them. Like it's definitely, I think, an acquired eye a little bit. And it's taken me, like, I didn't used to hunt this way. Like, it's taken me, I don't know, I've probably been trying to do this for like 10, 12 years or so. And I'm just now getting to the point where I can, do it with some pretty decent regularity as far as predicting where I think one might bed. And just for fun, sometimes I'll throw you're not supposed to, but I'll throw a camera up over it just to see if I'm right.
Yeah. We've done that. I've done
you're
that.
Not supposed to, but
no,
it's
I've
a lot
done
of
that
fun.
and got bucks bedded on cam and then killed the buck.
It's
You know what I
so
mean?
cool.
So
It's so cool.
you're like, I just want to see if he's here, and then boom, you get him. You're like, man, I'm a genius.
Yes, it's so good for morale.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, see, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, you got to tell yourself that sometimes, because most of the time
and
you
then
have no
get your
idea.
ass handed to you. Yeah, and then you get your ass handed to you for 2 weeks straight. Like it's
Yeah.
got a way of humbling you.
Oh
man.
yeah, we
yeah.
were so humbled this vacation, man. We were just absolutely crushed. We're still not right.
No, yeah, no.
We're still not. We were talking about that when we were in. I'm like, man,
I'm like, bro, I'm in a funk, dude.
Yeah.
I'm coming out of it, but
Yeah.
I am just
not
still
in-
not right.
Not right. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, like in you guys' video there, I remember homie saying he was standing by the truck or something. And he was like, you were asking him about like, what's the deer doing? He's like, no, they're kind of kicking my ass.
Yeah.
I know they're doing that for sure.
Yeah.
That's just part of it. I had the same, and I think in general, I think a lot of hunters were the same way this year. I mean, a lot of good deer got killed. They always do, but by and large, I think it was a tough rut this year.
yeah, I think it was. It definitely wasn't what we expected with that cold in October. The cams were on fire. Bucks were
Dude, it
everywhere. We were like, we're about to get on our vacation right now. It's going to be off the chain. Bucks are going to be dropping. I bought 2 buck tags. I was like, I'm just going to go buy another buck tag so I ain't got to go to the store mid-vacation. You know what I mean?
Suckered you.
That's how jacked I was. I was like, I'll just go ahead and get
That's
another
all
bow tag just in case, it gets
Yep.
because we just had deer daylighting. Shit was lining
Yeah.
up.
We did too in October.
Man,
and then
it was
hit the kids.
Yeah, late October was, like I said, some of the best time to hunt. But
Yeah.
just to kind of recap this episode, and then homie wrote down an awesome question that I want to cover. I didn't even think about it, but I know you have the answer with your veterinary knowledge and deer knowledge. But anyways, so trying to beat the heat, you want to try, to hunt the shade areas, hunt somewhere where that some wind can get into. Think about where these deer are going to be bedded. Hunt the low-lying areas if you can, in the morning to get that thermal temperature rise. Anything else that we missed there?
I think that's about it. I'm not sure all that thermal structure, if you want to call it like that, theory is scientifically valid, but I think it holds a little bit of water.
I think it does too, just on what we had seen from past, like where it normally is good. And then where we've seen the action,
yeah,
the deer weren't up on the ridges. They were halfway up or towards the bottom, you know what I mean, is what we were seeing, trying to catch some wind. And then in the morning, and they were down that low trying to get that cool temps, you know what I mean? So
you bet.
But yeah, go ahead and hit it with this question, because I'm really interested in that.
Yeah, Clint, so this is more like projecting the hunting going forward after this hot rut. Yeah. So first part, I got a two-parter. First part is, does it being that hot and then bucks running around that much, did that cause more fat loss during that time period than normal?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you're ultra hot or ultra cold, there is energy being expended. Period. There are kilocalories of energy being expended, either to help cool you off or to help warm you up.
Keep you warm.
When it's more so in colder temperatures, but here's where the weight loss happens in warm temperatures. And we see this a lot growing up on a dairy farm here. So we feed our cattle twice a day, a great big, what we call total mixed ration, and we put it out there for them. And we have a calculated number for as far as the volume of feed we feed these cattle. And by and large, when temperatures are just god awful high, they're what's called, quote, dry matter intake drops. When it's hot, nobody eats. And when cattle are heat stressed in the summer, we feed way less feed to help prevent wasting it, and they don't even go through that. Their milk production drops, their body condition starts to suffer a bit, to make that conversion. Deer are going to be the same way. How many times have you seen a deer on an 85-degree day walking out in the cornfield browsing leftover corn?
Yeah,
like
never.
They don't eat that much. So when temperatures are elevated, dry matter intake, whether you're a cervid with a rumen or a cow, your dry matter intake is going to drop. Couple that with the activity of the rut or the activity they had pre this heat wave, and you set up an animal to lose a lot of weight.
Yeah, I could see. I mean, even like people say, well, the rut happened. It happened at night. They were chasing at night. It was still 65.
Yeah,
they didn't really get a break.
Not 35 like it normally should be.
35,
right.
20.
Yeah.
Even like I told homie, I said, even if it was 40, even if we could get like a 40 for the low and a 50 for the high, like I'd be okay with that. But 76, man, that's just 56 for the low. They don't even get a break. It's 60 degrees at night.
My cameras, my photos that I got during that time period were very sporadic, and like I didn't see a huge difference between day and night. Like they didn't magically all get up after dark and go, up, now we're cool, let's run around and breed each other.
Yeah, that's what we were seeing too. Yeah. It just was the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So going forward with our hunting season, with them bucks having a little bit more fat loss, are we going to be able to see them hitting the food a little earlier maybe than we would normally?
I think that's all going to be temperature dependent, Ryan. I think it always is. I will tell you the buck that I shot with a gun here a couple days ago, he was abnormally thin. I was almost ashamed of how small his body was. Like he was he's been known to be balls to the wall, run all over the countryside after does in his history. But he was unusually thin and small bodied because he just run himself ragged. I think during I got him on trail camera multiple times when it was hot, and he was just running with his tongue hanging out. So going forward, I think it stands to reason that, food sources are always going to be super important, but I think after the heat and the rut that we had, I think we probably should expect, bed to feed patterns start as soon as we get some colder temperatures. But, going forward, I think what I'm seeing now, and you guys can chime in on this too, what I've seen the last 3 to 5 days is, quote, lockdown behavior. And lockdown for me may mean a little bit different than what it means to everybody else. What I consider, quote, lockdown is when there are a lot less does available for breeding, and so the one doe that's still in super heat is going to attract like 4 to 5 different bucks. There'll be a dominant buck, a couple little ones over here, a 3-year-old, locking multiple bucks into her position instead of being out and about and walking under your tree stand. So I think some people think consider lockdown as, quote, the peak of the rut, and I don't think that. I think lockdown happens towards the later third of that gestation, or that rut cycle, right before post rut, if that makes any sense. So going forward, I think hunting over food sources where does frequent right now is a good idea. I think I've seen tons of activity in the mornings too. But going forward, our second gun season happens in about 10 days-ish or so. And that's always like one of the least favorite times for me to be in the woods. I think second gun is awful. Those bucks are no longer those aren't super receptive to breeding anymore. I would say 95% of those are bred by then. And I think bucks during that first week of December just decide, you know what, dudes, let's just lay around and try not to die for a couple weeks. Seriously, start replenishing. And then after that first 2 weeks or so of December, and we get some cold temps, then I feel like your bed to feed patterns become predictable. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I feel like this week coming up has been the best for big deer for my whole entire hunting career. And I'm planning on trying to hunt a few times during this. We get 2 days off for Thanksgiving, and I can always sneak out for a morning hunt before the kids get up. Sneak out for 4 or 5 hours,
Definitely.
Get in there and still have time to cook breakfast at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, you know what I mean?
Right.
But that's when I've seen my biggest deer. But I thought shotgun season, this is the scenario that played in my mind, was like, okay, there's so many, it's so hot, the does are coming into heat, the bucks aren't moving as much because of the heat. So do you think that there's any does that didn't get bred and the second cycle could be phenomenal because of that heat?
It's definitely possible, and I think all that depends on. I think that is all very dependent on buck to doe ratio in any given area. If you've got an abundance of, you've got 4 does to 1 buck, I think the next cycle could be very good for you. But if it's a 1-to-1 or a 1-to-2 ratio, then I still think they got enough breeding done to probably make, I never really use the second cycle, we'll call it. I don't use the term second rut, but I really don't use that as a hunting strategy, or I'm not sure that I ever have been like, yep, second rut's on, let's, go hunt in a doe bedding area. I just feel like it's very unpredictable. And you'll hear guys talk about second rut, like, oh, I saw a buck chasing. Well, yeah, I mean, if there's the last doe in 10-mile radius from you is receptive, she's liable to have like 5 bucks on her tail. You know what I mean? And I think I think the second rut, quote unquote, is a bit of a misnomer. I think I don't want to call it a myth, because they certainly they certainly continue to come in, like especially those younger does later in the winter that are fawns and reach that magic 80 or 85 pound mark or whatever it is to get them to cycle. But by and large, I'm not sure that rutting activity after the 1st of December is really enough strategy there to hang your hat on.
It's good intel to chalk down. That's what I've had success on is yearling does, second rut.
And it does occur. I cracked one time on New Year's Day, chasing the tar out of a doe fawn, grunting his head off like it was the middle of November, man. And it was colder than hell. Like, it was one of those deals where it's like, am I really seeing what I think I'm seeing right now? You know?
Yeah,
but,
the October
doable.
30th hunt we seen a buck breed a doe on October 30th, chasing, grunting, fighting, raking trees,
The whole nine.
everything. Yeah, like, and it was, of course, right on the edge of darkness where you just catch flashes of stuff, you know what I mean? But homie said, oh, here's something running. Doe, buck, shooter buck, small buck. Here comes another shooter buck behind them doing that slow walk. You know, it's like the 4 or 5-year-old. It's like, yeah, I'll be there in a minute. She's not quite ready. But yeah, I see the buck mouth the doe on October 30th. I'm like, shit is on. We're about to have the best 2 weeks of our life. Now look at the temps, and I'm like, hang it up.
That's what we should have done.
So I'll give you a story about October 30th. That was a Friday.
Yeah.
And I didn't take work off. I was in the office, and the wife and I went on Halloween afternoon. I had to work till noon on Halloween. I went in there and pulled some cameras on a buck I call Sub-Zero, who's just a monster. And wouldn't you know who was there on the 30th in broad spanking daylight, like 15 steps from the tree. Like you could have thrown your bow and killed him. Unbelievable. I was so irate. Like it was so early in the evening that you could have shot him, did the recoveries, and had plenty of daylight for your grip and grins. You know what I mean?
Damn, yeah. The 30th, like I said, the 30th was one of the best hunts we had all year.
I was so mad. I missed it. And now he's ghosted me. Like I know he's still out there, but I'm starting to crowd him so much, or I was, that I think I may have tipped him off a little bit. And so that's why I really shifted focus onto those other 2 bucks. Man, I've had it bite me in the past where I get hung up on one, and that's like I get a one-track mind and I get burnt out. And like, truth be told, if I hunted him hard last year and I was specifically targeting him and I didn't get the job done, that tells me that I am missing some piece of the puzzle. Now, I don't know what that is yet in him, but I'm certainly missing something that I'm just not picking up on quite yet, or he hasn't given it to me. So, like, what do you do in a situation like that? You go find other bucks that are willing to die for God and country. Like, I get tired of sitting around on the same one all the time. Like, I want to engage new territory, see new ground, chase new bucks, and that really helped me break up the monotony of it. I'm glad I did. That mindset, I would never have done that the last couple of years, but I had one beat me 2 or 3 years ago that I'd worked so long and hard for, and he just totally up and ghosted me, and I spent like 2.5 years working on this deer. I can't trap myself into another one like that, no matter how bad I want him.
Yeah, I talked to a buddy about that pretty long extent, and I think we're gonna do a whole podcast on it about how you just like can waste a season trying to kill a giant when you could have killed a lot of other solid bucks. And that's exactly what happened to me and homie. We were hunting only sets where we thought this giant would go. There was no like, well, if we go over here, this buck, pretty good chance. No, that wasn't even like on our brain. You know what I mean? The only thing we were doing was we would literally go, well, what about this? Well, is he going to, do you think he's going to go there? That would be the stipulation. Yeah. That would be the end all be all of whether we hunted there or not. There's no way he's going to go there. we're not going to go there. You know what I mean? And then we messed up on bucks. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, we seen shooter buck go into this woodlot or this hillside, this ridge, and we could have tore down, easily went over there, and then sure as shit, 2 hours later, buck chasing a doe, same trail, right in there.
yeah.
And we literally had talked about tearing down and moving because I mean we still had a decent hunt left. We talked about tearing down and moving, but we both said Magnum's not going to go over there.
Yeah, that's like past this north zone.
Yeah,
we never got a picture of him past there. He's not going to go there. Then two and a half hours later, a bigger buck goes right down the same trail this other buck did, and I'm like, shit.
And we can see it all.
And
I mean, you can see everything.
You can just see that you're a complete and total disgrace to deer hunting. You're like, God, I'm trash out here.
Well, that guy lives.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you guys aren't trash.
So he'd be like, man, we could have killed that deer. We could have killed that deer easy. So, but.
You have to, I have to sometimes get out of that, like, really linear thinking and get out of my own way. You know what I mean? Like, just learn to go try something screwball, like it frees me from those like rigid structured, I have to be here at this spot this time because he was there last year at this time. Like I need to have a balance between like just total bullshit cowboy in it and like super studied nerd. I've got all the intel. And being very tactical. I need to have a mixture of the two. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And, that can definitely liven up a hunt. The bullshit cowboy side definitely throws the fun aspect of it into a hunt, especially if you've been, trying to be super tactful on your moves and stuff, being aggressive.
The stress is gone.
Then it just goes straight left field.
Yeah, the stress.
You're like, oh, yeah, I'm just out here.
I'm just out here trying to kill a good buck.
Your expectations are different in a hunt like that. And then when good shit happens in that hunt, it just totally elevates everything.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a morale boost, and when you make those moves in real time and not like a week later, and you can capitalize or get close and not tear it to pieces, not bump deer. Like, man, those are days. Even though you don't pull that bow back, you go back to the truck going, I got one over on him. I got one over on him.
Yeah, that's the small things you can take away from a season that maybe you weren't successful, but you beat him one time. You were just right there. You know what I mean? Like you had the hammer lined up on the nail in the coffin and you just missed it by an inch. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah!
Holy shit!
Yeah.
So
yeah.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate you talking, Clint. We're running up here in an hour. We're going to waste all your night here, but hope you have a good Thanksgiving, brother. We appreciate you spending some time with us.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. I like following you guys, you young bucks. I like seeing it, man. I like seeing the struggle. That's the good stuff to me, man. Like,
oh yeah, we're full of that.
Well, no, but it is like that's, dude. If you think about it, like a lot of the commercially consumable, especially outdoor television programming, it's that cookie cutter stuff. You know what I mean? Like nobody's teaching you how to deer hunt on those shows. Nobody's showing the hard stuff. Nobody's showing the grit and the grime, the 7-8 days straight of not seeing anything. You know what I mean? Like it's not real. What we try to do, or you guys are doing, and what I try to do is just be authentic, lay it down how it went down. You know what I mean? Like be a normal deer hunter, because newsflash, the general public are normal deer hunters.
Yep.
That's
all we try to do, man. We came in here multiple times and said we didn't see any deer.
Yeah.
We made it just our normal. We laughed it off, like, yeah, we're pretty trash out there, you know what I mean? And a lot of people are probably like, man, these guys are harder on themselves, but that's just our way of coping with utter distress. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
We were talking, and we did like a recap episode of, what we did wrong, what we would have changed, and I wanted to do that just so we could listen back on that and kind of learn stuff for next year to be prepared. And maybe
you bring up a real good point there. Like, sit down and like I do this every year at the end of the season, dude. Is I'll sit down and put pen to paper and do the same exact thing you were just talking about. What did I do right? What did I screw up? And what do I need to work on to get better so it doesn't happen again next season?
Yep.
That's goal-oriented hunting. At least it maybe not so much goal as in I need to shoot this size of a buck or that, but like I need to improve myself as the goal. Then you become better every year.
Yeah, for sure. That's something we try to do is we try to put all our flaws and everything out there for everybody else to hear too. So maybe some guy has messed up like that and said, well, man, I'm not the only guy that's doing dumb shit out there. Or maybe some guy said, hey, maybe these guys did that. I'm not going to do that shit. They had a terrible time. You know what I mean? So we just try to be 100% honest of what we got going on. And
That's the way to play it.
if we say it all the time, but if someone followed us around like and filmed everything 24/7, people would be like, how do these guys kill anything? Because they shouldn't even be getting close to these deer. It's a complete disaster. You know what I mean? So we pulled cams during the middle of this. How many cams got turned off or?
I want to say 2 or 3 at least.
Yeah,
it was like no.
When you go in a mile and a half to pull a cam on public, someone's turned it off. You're like, oh, come on, man! I'm trying to get some moves right now.
Yeah.
They turned it off.
Oh yeah, turned it off.
Straight off.
Did they leave you your SD card?
Yeah. SD card in there and everything. Just turned it off.
Well, that is a dick move.
Oh yeah, you get pictures for like 7 days, so you're like, shit, I didn't turn this camera on. I'm a complete dumb shit. And then you're like, I got pictures for 7 days. And then you see the legs. You see the leg shot.
The random arm.
Yeah. You're like, got me. Dude, got me with the brownie pants. Got me, man.
Normally when somebody finds mine, they just jerk the SD card out of it.
Well, every one of my cams I put "Don't be a douchebag" on in black permanent marker.
You did not.
I did.
Not.
Every one of them. It says "Don't be a douchebag," "Don't steal me," something like that.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Instantly triggers. I'm gonna be a dick.
It says like number 16. They open it and it says "Don't be a dick," just giant right on the inside. Oh. Still don't work. Still don't work.
At first I thought you were ribbing me. I'm like, he can't be serious.
No, I'm 100% serious.
Yeah, 100%.
I had 2 stolen. One said "Don't be a douchebag." One said "Don't be a dick." Both gone.
Let's change the phrasing a little bit. You need to get some "What would Jesus do" stickers.
Yeah, that's what I need. Maybe that'll work a little better. I need to kill him with kindness.
Yes.
You have one that says. He has one that says, "Don't steal me. We still have that cam."
Yeah,
so that worked.
that one, "Don't steal me." I tried that. That was kind of more soft blow. I need to write, "I'm a good guy." I'm a decent human being.
I got kids.
I got kids.
That'll work.
That'll work every time. Yeah. I got 3 kids, man. I only got 2 cams, bro.
You know what we need to do? We need to take out of Brian Rogers' playbook and other Brian. Just put hashtag doe hunts. I'm just out here hunting does.
Yeah, this is doe camera.
Right.
Antlerless cam only.
That'll work.
Oh, yeah. I'm just going to put I got 3 kids, bro, on every one. That's got to work.
Kids, man.
I got
Think
kids. Oh.
What would Jesus do?
Yeah, that would be decent. I went straight savage. Don't be a dick. I thought about drawing a dick on my cams, but then I was like, man, not my dick on every one of my cams. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to write dick, like the word out, you know what I mean?
That might be a little strong.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to open it and see a dick every time, you know what I mean?
So that might be a little strong.
But yeah, I still got a bunch of those, so yeah. Work.
What, giant dicks or
No.
what?
Got none of that. Got none of that.
Oh, a bunch of cams.
Yeah,
All right.
I got zero of that in the room. That's for sure. Oh, we better end it on that.
Man, beat the heat in the rut 2020.
Yeah. We're throwing some secret cam tips at the end here, guys. You want to try it out? I had mixed success with it. All right, guys. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Always an absolute privilege to talk to Clint. Had a lot of fun with him. We got to talk to another hour after.
Yeah.
After recorded a lot of stuff. Dude's just solid. He's knows how to kill deer, and if you get a chance, check out some of his films. Really solid. Guy knows how to tell a story, and guy might have some more content coming down the chute. I'm excited about that. So, like always, we love you guys. We appreciate you guys listening. If you want to hear our beautiful voices and other people's voices that actually know more about deer hunting than us, you can click that subscribe button wherever you're at. That helps us out. Gives you a notification when we post a new episode, which is every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time. You know what we always say, do the right thing, leave a legacy, and Whitetail Legacy's out till we're coming in your ear holes hard as hell next Wednesday. Hard. We out.